What's up?
I mean, you tell me, man. You must have had a hell of a harvest days. Can't even.
Yeah, man, it's that trying to get back into the groove after that town festival is not pretty, but yeah, Gabe got to see me off to a very slow start this morning.
We're, we hit 11 minutes after the posted time. That's
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, and I was on time when I clicked the link, I was on time. And things just went terribly wrong after that. So,
what it's. So for my new job, it's Microsoft Teams based, and
yeah.
so I um, I've got nothing but more and more frustration with that solution.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Yeah.
yeah, even this morning. So I'm in the office 3 or 4 days a week, and I had a laptop and I was in Teams. I could see my mic was picking up like on the system, like on the computer itself. Teams was telling me it was using that microphone, and I wasn't getting any audio at all. It was a whole thing. So I don't know if that I'm willing to give you that grace that maybe it's a
Yeah, thanks.
Microsoft problem.
Well, it's funny. We like at Indigo, we were all Zoom. That
Mhm.
was the first time I'd ever heard of Zoom, and I got away from using Zoom for so long that I don't know. I struggle with it for whatever reason. But the other thing I got going on, I find myself in all of these platforms. So I'm in Teams, Zoom. I had to do a Google Meets last week for a reason, and it's just like they all just have their own little nuance and they're hard to get in. But you should look. You should just be able to click on the link and open up where
Yeah,
you're going, but I don't know. I
I,
had to do a couple
I
of
have a hard time in Outlook finding the actual thing that's the meeting. Like, because there's Outlook and there's Teams, and
yeah,
like it feels like it doesn't give you everything in Teams. And
yeah,
ah,
yeah.
anyway,
I meet regularly with this group, and he sends the email out from Teams somehow, but it's a Zoom meet is what he wants to do.
okay.
And at literally every time, me and another guy, we just click on the calendar link and go to it. We're sitting in a Teams room all by ourselves, and then we get a text from this guy saying, "Hey, we're doing the Zoom." I'm like, "Oh, God, yeah, all right, we'll figure it out." So what's new, man?
Um, like so let's see. It's been so we're recording this one a little bit later, delayed. I got 2 gig internet. Cost me
Yeah.
$15 more a month. Price is locked in for 5 years. I
Oh,
was like,
wow.
so everybody's next question is, do you need 2 gigs? And the answer to that question is no. I absolutely do not need 2 gigs. But I'll tell you what, when somebody I was at a gig already, which I it's probably like the old trader in me, like likes knowing that that bandwidth's there.
Yeah,
But when somebody offers you another gig for $15 a month, I was like, yeah, like I don't
that's right.
assume, and you can download video games a lot faster. I tell you what,
Is there like a cap on it or is it unlimited?
it's unlimited. It's
Hmm.
unlimited.
What is
And the
that?
nice thing is nobody else in my neighborhood's on it yet, so it actually runs at like 2.3 gigs. Like
Nice. Is that fiber optic then?
it's still well, so it's Verizon FiOS into the house, but it's still running on RJ45 on Ethernet cable.
Okay.
I think it can do that up until I think they'll switch to like fiber if it goes over 2.5,
Okay.
like is what is I feel like. So I think we talked about I upgraded all my network infrastructure a couple months back. Not because I was expecting to get 2 gig, but just I was like, I'm gonna go through the effort. Let me just put everything. But
Yeah.
like the Cat 8 is like 10 gig pipes, right? So like,
Okay.
but I assume there's something goofy about connecting into the actual wide area network. Like
Yeah.
you have to
Right.
use fiber instead of RJ45.
Hmm.
Yeah. So that's cool, but that upgrade process, Verizon guy was great, but just took longer than anybody wanted it to, and
Yeah.
um, so we delayed recording. Yeah, and then at the new job, no surprises there. It's great. Um, it's found some other folks like in the company that kind of didn't realize we're there on the construction side that know quite a bit about networking and some of the
Hmm.
specifics of machine hardware. So that was exciting to find. Like and those guys are in construction, so they like literally know like where the bodies are buried, kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Right.
So yeah, it was kind of a relief that we're not going to figure all that out, and they seem genuinely excited about doing some stuff. Yeah, kids are doing all right. I don't know if we talked about like Ellie didn't make the soccer team. They got cut.
Oh, I didn't hear that.
It was a bummer. Like so she's been working pretty hard this summer. Like when we started working out, so she learned at the end of last school year, like one of the qualifications for varsity is you had to, not that she was expecting to make varsity, but was you had to run 2 miles in 16 minutes, which, it's not crazy, but it ain't easy.
No.
Um, and so we'd start out the summer and she was, I think it was like a 21, 22 minute time. When she went through tryouts, she ran it in 16 minutes.
Okay.
She had worked pretty hard through the summer to get that down. Um, so proud of her for that. And what's the other funny? So she's doing crew, right? So rowing,
Oh, okay. Cool. Yeah,
so
that's
boats on
awesome.
the river kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um, and so she's in way better shape than most of the other kids.
Oh,
Like
sure.
just and it, I think it was cool for them to get the context of like that's what the soccer team's like. This is the crew team's.
Mm.
Obviously, it's a different workout and a different whatever. But yeah, so and they seem to like it, and so that's good. Lucy's doing all right with school. So this is a big transition, right? So we're 3 weeks into both of them going to new schools. So Ella going into high school and Lou
Yep.
going into middle school. Um, yeah, yeah.
3 weeks in, it feels like we've been at school for a year already. That's crazy.
It, yeah. Well, so they both started school, and I started the new job all on the same day.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Um, Still figuring out workouts. I mean, I'm definitely not working out as much as I was anywhere close, which isn't a shocker. But
Are you a 5 day a weeker workout guy normally?
I mean, when I can, I'm a 7 day a week
You are.
guy. But like as I've gotten a little bit older here, you know, one or two of those in an ideal week would be like a 3 to 5 mile, you know, walk hike thing.
Yeah, right.
Not every day is the pushing myself on the bike real hard.
Yeah, I think a buddy that I work out with, he has some sort of wearable, right, that keeps track of his heart rate or whatever, and it has this thing called like it tells him how long he needs to rest between workouts, right? So it's like a battery,
Yeah.
like a workout. And anyway, we finished our workout the other day. It's like 5 a.m. on a Monday. And we get done with the workout, and his watch told him he needed to rest for 96 hours. I'm like, man, that was an intense workout. Clearly, that's not good to start the week like that.
Yeah, man, I might be I might be a smart idea if we get that. Like I do a terrible job of like working out. I I I do too much or too little. Like I'm too,
That's where I'm at. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. But
I do try to take it easy. Like I guess as I got older, I learned to listen to my body a little bit. So I'll go in and, 5 years ago, I'd be sore from a workout a couple days before, and I'd go in and just trash my body, on this next day. But now I'll go in and say, I'll just tell the class like, hey, I'm like 80% today, and I'm just gonna go 80%. So,
wondering how much easier 80% is than
oh,
90? Like
oh,
it's crazy.
yeah,
It's
exactly.
it's like why am I even here?
Yeah.
This is no different than sitting on my butt. Like what?
That's right. Yeah. Well, even today, a long weekend with harvest days or whatever, and I got up and went to 5 a.m. class. It was not 80% effort this morning, I don't think, Gabe, more like 50, but we got in there and got her done.
Hey, showing up is like at least 80% of the
Yeah,
battle.
exactly. Right. Yeah.
Well, it's like I'll be riding the bike and hit like so at peak, I'm like doing 25 miles an hour on average for like 2, 3 hours or 2 hours, not 3 hours, two
That's
hours,
crazy.
which is like that's hard, right? Like
That's super hard.
I'm dying. I'm dead. At the end of it, like I'm dead. I'm just dead. Uh, and then like go at 20 miles an hour. I'm like I could do this for 6 to 9 hours. Like
Yeah, right.
I'm
Right.
fine. Like,
Hmm.
give me some water and some bananas, and we're all right. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. A little Netflix on the TV.
yeah, that's right. Um, so but I mean, so when we went to Europe ahead of that, I basically stopped riding the bike and was walking 5 to 10 miles a day just to because
Yeah.
you know how it goes when you go on family vacation. You end up just carrying a lot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And I need and I end up I'm the navigator, right? So I just want to make sure I was in good shape to do all the walking and like keep my attitude positive and like
Yeah.
stay on the ball. So it was I think it was time well spent. I mean, also it was good for me,
Yeah, right.
but
Right.
trying to get back into the harder bike workout, like it, I am moving very slowly into that.
How long has it been since you were doing the bike hardcore?
Since doing the bike hard, it's probably been like 3 months, 2 months, somewhere in
Okay.
there.
Just got
Uh,
busy with work.
no, because I just was like, all right, I'm going to focus on this walking thing.
Oh, I got it. That was the shift. I see.
You know, it was
Yeah.
just, I mean, because walking that much, like, just takes a ton of time. And so,
Yeah.
you're able to have calls and stuff, so that's good. But like, I wasn't about to go walk for 2, 3 hours and then get on the bike and do another
Right. Yeah.
45 minutes. Like, I'm an idiot, not that big of an idiot.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Oh, that's funny. So So it's fun. I bet last time we talked, it probably was probably down 55 or 60 pounds.
Yeah.
I'm still down 55 or 60. Yeah, I'm down 60 comfortably. Like it's starting to get a little bit past that now. But I got an email. I assume they sent it out to 1,000 people, but like, hey, would you be interested in doing like a promotional video, like a sales
Oh, yeah.
campaign? So I was
Yeah.
like,
You gonna do it?
well, I mean, I sent in my survey or whatever. I imagine, like I said, I assume it went to however many people. I think I have a big number, so like it, you know, it's potentially attractive for that reason, but we'll see.
Yeah,
But
that's fun.
I was telling Kat, I was like, yeah, but if they put me up there, I feel like I'm still the before picture. Like I'm not.
No, no way, man. That's awesome. 60 pounds. That's a big deal.
Yeah,
You got to feel a million times better, right?
I really
No?
don't. Like
Yeah.
I like I don't know what point and so there are some very noticeable things like I can wear my 2X shirts now, which I was very
Sure.
much out of. So that's nice. And I literally had to make a hole in a belt the other day, kind of thing.
Oh, that's a fun one. Yeah.
So like I have those like tangible proof points, and obviously
Mhm.
there's the scale, right? Like so I'm obsessed with the data, so staying on top of that.
Yeah.
Um, and it's been like I'm losing about like it's like a 7-to-1 ratio on fat to muscle, which I feel like I would
That's
take
good.
that all day long.
Yeah, right.
Um, and yeah, and so I know all these things, right? And so I'm glad I have all that data because if it was just like if I didn't have any of it, like
Yeah.
I you know, uh, so my wife says I don't snore as much now, so that's
Mm.
nice. But I
Yeah.
wasn't noticing that.
Sure.
Yeah. So, but I I know it's better. So
Yeah. Yeah, we hired I don't know, a few years ago, we hired a nutrition coach. We worked with a nutrition coach for like 6 months. And so when we signed up for it, I told him, he's like, "Hey, what are your goals or whatever?" I was like, "I really just want to do better in the gym. Like I just felt like I was getting old and needed, a little more endurance or something." And he was like, "Oh, that's awesome." He's like, "Usually people want to lose weight. This would be fun." He was excited about that.
I bet.
And so he actually upped what I ate, and it was a macro diet, so he was watching like the percent of fat and protein and whatever. Anyway, long story short, I lost like 30 pounds in 3 months. I mean, it just like shredded off. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
My workouts were crazy intense. It was really good. But anyway, the point is, I felt like I could run through a brick wall when I lost 30 pounds. I mean, that was like life changing. But
Yeah.
also, it was life changing weighing your food, measuring your food every day. I hated
Yeah.
that. That was the worst part.
So you're not going to take one of those Marvel movie deals where you're getting because that
Well, the
that
good
sounds like
news,
that like ramped up another 5 levels. Those
yeah,
people that take them jobs. Yeah.
yeah, but I'm back to the before picture now. So
You're back before.
yeah, oh well.
Hey, I bet you still look good in a Speedo, Rodney. I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
I,
got down, man. At that time, I was wearing medium shirts, which was crazy. I mean, that was crazy.
I could, I mean, I mean, part of it is, so when I was in high school, or not even high school, the last time I weighed 170 pounds was 8th grade,
Okay, yeah,
right? And I don't think I could have fit in a medium t-shirt then. I think it was probably still a large. It was fun. So, I grew up in Chicago and there were no sports in schools up until like sixth grade. It was basketball and nobody wanted, you know, round Gabe on their basketball team. I don't blame them. Like I'm terrible at basketball. And so, but then I started wrestling and like dropped. It was like 40 or 50 pounds, and it was all like shed all the because I had been doing nothing, like literally nothing, and then start wrestling and just
Yeah,
and
exactly.
then 170 was about the floor, and then started going up from there.
You wrestled 170?
No, I wrestled 185 because when I
180.
when I showed up, like so I think by the I so I didn't have to cut to make 185. I got down there very easily, but 167 would have been the next one down, and I feel like we had somebody good there and
Some stuff.
whatever. It was fine. Yeah, I got third in the state that year.
Did you really?
Yeah.
And that was high school then? Or
No, that was eighth grade.
okay. I
Um,
did not know that.
yeah.
Then went on to play college football, right? So
I went
you're
on to play college football.
that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I was 235, 245 when I left high school, and put on another 5 to 10 of mostly muscle. Well, yeah,
And they wanted you to gain weight then, right? I mean, for sure.
probably. I mean,
Yeah.
I was a good size. Like, I
Yeah.
mean, at 6'2", 245, 250, where most of that's, I wasn't 6% body fat, but I bet I
Yeah.
was like 10.
Yeah.
Like that's all right, and I was fast. Like I ran a 4.740.
Okay. Jeez. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
You
think,
once upon a time, like there was a
yeah.
we man, we were in some kind of like there was this cool self-defense class that they taught at the Boys and Girls Club here, and they encouraged the parents to like stay and like do all this stuff too. So like Ellie and I used to go, and at some point they lost interest and so whatever. But it was really cool. Like I was learning like boxing and stuff. I was screwing around with the kids one day, like before class was starting, like chased them around or something. And something happened where like I turned a corner and like there was a kid coming at me and like I was running like full speed around this corner. And so I did something I didn't really think about. And like I somehow like I like dove and scooped them up like out of the way, right? And
Yeah.
like so that they landed on me and and whatever. It was just like I was making sure I didn't run this kid
Right.
over. But
Yeah.
one of the other parents was like, "Holy crap! Like, are you like an athlete?" And I was like, "Whoa,
Athlete or superhero.
yeah,
Yeah.
or idiot, like one of the
Yeah.
three." Yeah,
Yeah. That's
uh,
awesome.
yeah. But yeah, so that was so every once in a while that shows up, but I get more and more worried about blowing out an Achilles or something
Yeah.
doing that stuff. So um, Ben Gay, I had did we talk about Ben Gay?
No.
Oh man, something happened. Like I was helping Elle train for tryouts, and I was playing goalie. It's so hard for me not to dive for the ball. Like
Yeah.
I'm just like the competitive. I mean, you can't turn it off, right? Like
No, exactly.
but I'm
Even if
like,
your body won't do it anymore, your brain will not shut it off. Yeah.
it's like so I wasn't diving or anything, but like I'm whatever. And I did something where I tweaked my shoulder, and it was killing me for like days. And we were at Costco or something. I was like, I get some Bengay, like see how that goes. But it was magic.
It's
I
so
was like,
good.
oh,
So we're a BioFreeze family. Have you
okay,
ever heard of BioFreeze? That's
yeah,
ours.
yeah, it's right next to it. Yeah,
That's great. It feels so good. But it feels
I
like such
was,
an old person
it was
thing.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
One last old story. There was uh, so we're playing football, and it was a game, and something happened. Somebody hit me right in the back of like my hip. There's that like weird, there's like two kind of nubs like on the back of your hips,
Yeah.
like just below your waist. So somebody hit me with a helmet like on
Mhm.
one of them. It was killing me. When we went in for halftime, started to cramp up, and like a trainer is there. He's like, "Hold on," and so he pulls, my shorts down a little bit. He takes there's this tub of this. It's just said Atomic Hot Rub on it. It was like, and it looked like something that had been put there in the 50s. You know what I mean?
Yeah, right.
And he just scoops out this huge handful, slams it on my back, and it felt like it was on fire. And about
Yeah,
5 minutes later, it was awesome. I was like,
that's
that
awesome.
is incredible. I don't I don't know what happened, and it didn't like, and it was great. I think it was bruised up, but like
Yeah.
it was awesome.
What does that stuff do? Like,
I don't know. Like
there must be medication in it, right?
well, there's definitely some medication in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it basically helps with the inflammation.
Mm,
Like it literally is like an anti-inflammatory, like a topical anti-inflammatory. I think is what it actually is.
got it.
Um, so
Yeah,
there we
we
go.
use a lot of it. More and more every day.
Biofreeze. Is that what it was? But
Yeah,
if you
biofreeze. Yeah, that's the one.
Biofreeze, it's a better brand name than Bengay. Bengay also sounds like it's out of the 40s. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. But I think it's the same stuff.
it's got to be.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. Anyway, so okay, September 22nd.
Yes.
How's harvest going?
Harvest. So around me, we're just getting ready to get into the field. There's a few, not everyone's going. Our farm's not going. We'll probably start next week. But plenty of beans cut around here, and there's, guys going here and there for sure.
Okay. So because people are just letting the crop finish, or has it been too wet to get out there?
No, so we haven't had a rain in like legit 6 weeks. It's been
Okay.
forever since it rained here. So, and actually, when beans first started cutting, they were coming in at like 9% moisture, which the contract spec is 13.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's pretty low.
So super low. And like all kinds of problems with that. One, you want to sell that water, right? So the volume of the 9 to 13 is money, actual money. And then, when they get that dry, they split at the head and you just lose
You get
more,
damaged and
coming
stuff.
into the combine. Yeah. So anyway, good news. We caught some rain this weekend. That was perfect. It'll probably knock the leaves off some of these beans that were about ready and then hopefully gave them back a little bit of moisture you know, normally you start cutting beans, they're like 14%, and then as the day goes on, they start to dry out. But these guys, it was like 10 in the morning, they're running, it's 9.5%. It was crazy.
I mean, been seeing headlines about like, oh, crop conditions aren't that good and that kind of stuff. And I know some of the yields were revised lower, but just not that much. It seems like it's not that good, but it's also not that bad. Like if
Yeah.
the
So around here, I mean, most guys, the few guys, and it's so early, it's hard to say, but the few guys that have been going in corn are kind of calling it an average crop.
okay,
Now the interesting thing there is, we traded the most gigantic crop ever all summer long, right? The headlines are this is a record crop, and I'm not saying it's not, it probably is. But
just not
for
in
the next
Illinois.
couple months, we'll be trying to figure out where we're at on that curve of yield.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
I mean, when you talk about harvesting dry beans like that, that's actual yield loss, right? That'll show
Yeah.
up if that type of thing continues. Um,
So I mean, at that point, I guess that might. Well, I guess bean prices haven't been as bad as corn in terms of.
That's right. Yeah, beans have bounced back a little bit. Actually, most of my guys here are like about break even at today's prices on soybeans, which is way better than we've
That's way
been.
better than it was. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's combination of good yield for sure, and then the price. Although we're down 16 cents on beans today, so probably dip back below that, but generally at profitable or break even levels.
I. What's the what's the morale like?
The last couple months have been really good for whatever reason. Well, for one, corn bounced like 40 cents off the lows that we put in back in that WASI report. So,
Right
I
before
mean,
when we went right below 4, right? And then
yeah,
it's
exactly, like 390 something. But I mean, you add 40 cents to the market and guys just feel a lot better anyway. There was a lot of doom and gloom down at 390.
yeah,
Um, yeah, and this isn't fun, but there's carry in the market, relatively good crop. Like I think guys are, getting through it. I think the real fear there for a while was like, hey, can corn go to $3? And if it does, what happens to my operation? I think that was a fear for sure.
well, I mean, and it can, right? Like that's I mean, not
Sure.
that I'm not going to pretend that felt like it was in the cards this time, but that I mean, that was part of my and remains part of my concern around that if the cattle market turns. I haven't looked at cattle futures in the last week, so
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
We'll pull that up later. We'll find out how wrong I am again,
Yeah.
which I will be happy to be. In fact, we had we got dinner last night from a Cuban place, and it's kind of like tapas style. And there was one of the small dishes we got was steak. So
Okay. Nice.
I thought
Keep it
about
coming.
that.
Keep it coming.
It didn't say market price, so so
Not yet.
we're not at lobster levels yet.
Exactly right. Exactly. You know, I think the other interesting thing that I think people don't understand is like field fires are a real problem this time of year.
Mm,
I don't know if you know that, but like, you know, these combines get hot and they'll throw a spark or something and light a field on fire, and it's out of control. I mean, corn is fuel, you know,
well,
so
yeah.
when it gets going, it gets going.
Especially
We have
if you haven't had rain in 6 weeks.
we
Like,
haven't had rain in a long time, so there was actually a big field fire down by like Effingham or Gibson City or something like that.
okay,
Um, I think Friday. It was a big deal. Burned up 80 acres or something like that. Those are nasty.
got to be pretty scary to get caught in the middle of too. I'd imagine. You
Yeah,
know,
so if you ever watch a video on it, you know, guys around here are in the habit now of hooking up tillage machines and keeping them close
okay,
to the field. So then what happens is if a fire does start, they just start like tilling the ground kind of around the fire to contain it.
yeah.
But they get nasty, man. I mean, we have it's crazy how many field fires I've seen. It's typically a combine that got hot. But every once in a while you'll see one that's like somebody burned their garbage. People don't burn garbage anymore, but we used to, you know, burn garbage
Yeah.
and it would spark something and go crazy.
That was that was a big change for us when we moved from Chicago out to Shanahan, right? Minoka. Yeah, like you just like saw a bunch of small. What are people? They're just burning garbage. Okay, I guess there's a thing here. All right.
Yeah, yeah, it's less and less for sure. Yeah, I thought we, you know, we always had a burn barrel out on the farm, and I must have went away to college and came back, and all of a sudden we had a dumpster in the yard. And I was like, "What's this? What do we need this for?" I thought we burned our garbage. And Dad's like, "Nah, we don't do that anymore."
Who did that, Ronnie? I don't remember anybody. I don't remember anybody with a burn barrel. What
Yeah, exactly. Now we pay for garbage disposal instead of
burning God knows what
yeah,
into the air? Yeah.
yeah. God knows what we were burning.
Uh,
So yeah, I'd say overall, a little more comfortable with the size of the crop and the profitability, but
so
still.
are you guys pricing stuff now, or are they still holding on?
Yeah, we've been, as fall gets closer, it's just they just gotta price something, right? It just, whether you like it or not. So we've got some sales on the books. You know, the thing is, fall corn, you have a tough time getting over $4 cash, even with the market up the way it is. But
Mhm.
yeah, we saw some opportunities. I mean, corn's kind of been trading a range here. Um, where you add 40 cents to the market, you gotta reward it is my thing, right? You gotta reward it. So those sales were helpful for sure. And then beans have been trading a pretty solid range for like 7 years. If you go back and look at the chart, it's like the same range forever. So again, just kind of when we get to the top of that range, taking some risk off and
What I heard you argue, Ronnie, is somebody should just day trade or whatever, trade around
yeah,
their range,
exactly.
right? Sell here, buy
Yeah,
there.
exactly. Yeah, not a good idea. Definitely not a
That
good idea.
that was always the danger when we started talking about when we used to run option school, talking about gamma. So and delta and volatility and all that stuff. So one of the things that implied volatility tells you is what the market, the whole market, thinks the range of the price will be, you know, today, tomorrow, for the next week. And so, you can always see in somebody's eyes like, oh, I'm gonna trade that range then. And it's like
Yeah.
that's a terrible idea. Like, yeah.
Yeah, because also that changes every day, right? Like,
Well, it changes every day. It's a thing. So I guess just we've probably talked about it before, but there's this the word for it's rent. And so basically, when you look at an option price, given a current market value and everything else, you can extract what we call the implied volatility from it. So basically, given all the market data you can see, the only missing piece to calculate the value of an option is the volatility. So you just figure out what number, what do you plug into your formula to get where the option is currently, and that tells you where the implied volatility is. And then this is some vocab or heavy stuff. So implied volatility, right? That's the annualized standard deviation of returns on the underlying. And so what it's doing is it's taking, so that price, right, implies a certain amount of market movement between now and that option's expiration. And so option traders, whether it's calls or puts or whatever, they don't actually care what direction the market goes. And that's something a lot of people don't realize is when you're a market maker in options, you don't care about whether the market's going up or down, even whether it's a put or call, because you go hedge out that risk. That's what delta hedging is taking that directional risk off the table. You care about how much it's moving. That's where you make or lose your money. And so if you buy a December option right now, which expires in 2 months, right? That price on that December option tells you what the market's going to do in those 2 months. But in order for option traders to compare a whole bunch of different things, anytime we talk about volatility, we're talking about it in this annualized form. So it's not.
Mm.
So what we're saying is, if however much the market's going to move between now and November, if we annualize that level of movement, that's that implied volatility number. And so you can convert that annual number back into, so you don't have to do anything to it to make it a year, right? So if it's 20% and the market's at $4, that's telling you the market thinks it's going to go up or down 80 cents over the next year. Like, that's straightforward.
That is the math.
That's it, right? It's because that's one standard deviation. So it's telling you with roughly a 2/3 chance, it thinks the high will be plus 80 and or the low would be minus 80. So if it trades 80 to 80, that implied vol was right.
Yeah.
But then you can do math on that number to basically change it to any time frame you want. So you could make it 2 years, you could make it 30 seconds, you could make it 1 second. But it involves you wouldn't just, if you want to make it 6 months, you wouldn't cut it in half, right? The
It's
math's
not
like,
that simple.
it's not quite that. You take the square root of the time, and that tells you. So
Is this Black-Scholes? Is
this
this
is well, this is part of Black-Scholes model,
part
yeah.
of Black?
But because it's a standard deviation, whatever. It's statistics, right? It's not. So the 1 year thing is straight up, but like when you convert it to shorter time frames,
I
you have
see.
to do it. So
That's why it's not linear.
that's why it's
It's
not
because of
linear.
standard deviation. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you can make it any time frame you want, right? So to figure out so if you're looking at these options, and it had, like, I'm just making up the number, volatility of 20%, that what we would talk about is 20%, and you want to figure out what that actually meant for the next 2 months, you would have to go, so how many 2 month periods fit into a year? The answer to that is 6.
6. Yeah. Right.
And so you would take the square root of, you take 1 over the square root of 6, and then multiply that times the implied volatility, and then take that times the current market price. And that would tell you what the market thinks the high or low could be over the
Hmm.
next 2 months.
And so when you're doing that, every strike has their own volatility. You're looking at
Yep.
like at the money. Is that
You'd look at the money. So the purest volatility is considered the at the money vol in terms of the actual expression of what it thinks the market range is going to be. Because what happens is when you move, what Rodney's talking about is, we call it a curve or a smile or a smirk, talk about
yeah, right.
depending on what it looks like. And so there's some irrationality that comes into play in those out of the money options, in particular, because basically people think about, like, people will pay more than they should from a quantitative perspective, right? For stuff, for like a call that goes out of the money,
Sure.
because it's kind of like they're already getting a price break because it's going to be cheaper. And so they're willing to give back a little bit of that price break.
Hmm.
And then you get to a point where they look at it like lottery tickets as opposed to
Right.
anything real, right? If you're paying an eighth of a cent for something, like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right.
So,
Yeah, we've literally bought lottery ticket calls, talked about them that way,
yeah.
whatever. So I'm super, this is like super relevant to me. Uh, so when you say the market views this range, right? This is like what the market's kind of trading right now.
Mhm.
You say that's one standard deviation?
Yeah. So the implied volatility number is one standard deviation. Yeah. So about a
Got it.
two out of three times it thinks this is what's going to happen.
I see. Got it. Yeah. And then what do you do if you wanted to bump that to like 90% chance?
So I forget the exact numbers, but basically, if you double it, I think you go to like 85% or so. I, I feel like it's worth me looking up what the standard deviation.
I can see the curve. I never took
Yeah,
statistics. That's the one class I think I'd go back and take if I could.
I retook calculus and it was awesome.
Hmm.
Um, let's see this. Yeah, so one standard deviation is 68% roughly. Two is 95.
95.
And you
Okay.
do literally just double it at that point. So if your number was if you were saying the high low would be 20 cents, you would say two standard deviations is 40. Like that's how standard
Oh, really?
deviation
Is
works. Yeah.
that standard? Hmm.
And then three standard deviations, right, would get you 99.7. Um,
Okay.
so when I found out I had language-based learning disabilities in college, and one of the things they said is like, oh, your written IQ is worse than your verbal IQ, like the spread on it is larger than four standard deviations. Um,
Okay.
meaning that
You're a total outlier.
yeah, well, yeah, like because the reason they say, and so that's like the statistical context that says like, oh, you don't have a normal relationship between how you speak and how you write, and so yeah, it's that big. Um, Yeah. So if you get, that's like one out of 10,000 or 100,000 or something.
Yeah.
Whatever. I say four, it might have been five. Like it was something that
Hmm.
didn't really work, make sense anymore. Um, so
So, like, you know, you started this conversation by saying farmers shouldn't like look at these and say, "Hey, I
shouldn't
want to
trade
trade this
that
range."
stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So
But it
go
is
ahead.
helpful. It is helpful to have some idea of how realistic any price might be, right?
So I find it helpful for a couple reasons if I'm not going to trade it. So let's be super clear. It is a reasonable thing, I think, if you're a professional trader to look at implied volatilities to help you. They literally, call it whatever gamma trading or so it is helpful as a professional trader and a viable thing to do to trade around that rent number. Okay, like so we're back in use that vol and figure out what you think the market's going to do that day, and basically, but that's somebody who's spending literally all day long staring at those numbers and on top of it, right? So they're watching for changes in the volatility itself, like does the market think it's going up or down, and that's all they're doing, right? So that's why it's not that's why I don't think it's reasonable because of the amount of attention that it takes.
Yeah.
Doing You're probably also at this point, doing that as well as a billion computer programs also doing it, right? Because it's just math.
Right.
Um, so that where it is useful is understanding if you're going to buy an option, right? If you're like, oh, like whatever, I want to basically buy price risk insurance. It tells you where the market thinks the risk is on the table today, right? It's a really clear way to understand. And so most people, when they go buy price risk insurance, that's too expensive. Okay, fine. Let's tell so this is what it thinks it's protecting, right? It thinks it's covering against this big of a move, potential move. And so then you can sit there and go, yeah, I believe that, right? Or I don't.
Yeah. Right.
And it gives you something else to kind of react to as opposed to just this arbitrary number that doesn't there's no intuitive way that it converts to a market change.
Right.
Um, and then, the other thing is like you're saying, people worried about going down to $3 or whatever. I mean, we looked at volatilities back then. I don't think I mean, is it possible? Yeah, of course it's
Sure.
possible, but I don't think options were priced in a way that they were conveying that level of risk on the table. I mean, where it but I do think like 350, 380 definitely would have been, um, reasonable again from the way the options were priced.
Yeah.
So that's where I find like, so when you're having those conversations about like, well, what do you think? I feel like I've been at the table and I've seen the farm marketer or account manager go, hey, what do you think the market can do? Right. Like what does any of us think the market can do?
Yeah.
Like
Exactly.
it's
Right.
such like a incredibly difficult question. Like that again, thousands of people and tons of computer processing is going into asking all the time. And like if you're like a random guy who has a full-time job that isn't staring at the market, like how are you going to come up with a number that like me? And so again, like using that option, like, oh, this is what the market thinks. Like
Exactly.
at
Right.
least then it's like, well, here's a really helpful piece of information that like if you believe in capitalism and free markets and all that kind of stuff, okay, this is a useful piece of information. It's probably not the answer, but it's like going to
Right.
be, it's way more research done very quickly, with huge stakes for people, right? And so it was, which is why you believe that it's at least thoughtful.
Right.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and I just want to make sure we're thinking about this the right way. So when you talk about that range that it like is showing you what the market thinks, again, you said 66% chance, right, or whatever.
yeah,
And then that 66% chance is that we stay inside of that range, right? Like
yeah, so
on the
yeah, so
top.
that yeah, so if the number was 20 cents up or down, right? Like you would consider that right as long as it would be right if it traded up or down 20 or both. Like it and it could
Yeah.
fly in between there, but that's what it's saying for the length of time that you're looking at it, whatever time frame you give
Sorry,
it.
would it also be right if it didn't move at all?
No,
No.
right. So I mean, it would have overstated what the ball like. It is saying it thinks the market's going to
It's
trade
gonna do that. Okay, got it. Yeah.
like it. The high will be this or the low will be this,
Yeah.
or again, or both. And so it could trade a lot in between there.
Sure.
But if over the time frame you're looking at, it hit one or both of those, then it would be considered right.
Yeah.
So which is to say it's almost always wrong.
Yeah.
But especially for really short term stuff, it tends to be like, so if you think about, are we going too deep on like volatility? Because like this
I,
is
I love
all right.
this.
So there's this whole, obviously there's seasonality in prices. We talk about you kill the crop 3 times and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And so when you, so let's talk about December 2026 options right now.
Yeah.
Okay. So just take a step back, think about it. So a couple big things. One, people haven't even bought seed for 2026.
Yeah.
Okay. So right now, the biggest impact on 2026 prices is probably 2025 prices. But when we think about the relationship, it's definitely not 1 to 1. It's not like D5 goes up a penny, D6
Oh,
goes up a penny, right?
right.
D5 goes up a penny, maybe D6 goes up 3/4,
Yeah.
right? Some 70 to 80% of a delta, if you
Yeah.
will, right?
Yeah.
Between, uh, and so, um, and so when we look at a December option, right now, it's thinking about a couple things. So one, it's definitely considering, okay, I'm going to move at about 75% of what is now new crop, right? Is going to move at for the next couple months, and then it has that relationship to March and then it starts to develop its own angle. But obviously, you know, carry out and stuff like that is going to drive a lot of that pricing, just like it's going to drive the old, as the new transitions to the old. But it contains in that number, that single number that right now is 14 months, right? Like you're coming for
Yep.
it covers not only where it doesn't really have its own thing going on, that's just thing that it's obviously got really quiet periods after planting, right? And then heading into July with pollination, and then what does the back end of that look like? What does harvest ultimately look like? Where their production, all those things. But there's some really quiet periods and there's some really noisy periods. And that one number, in theory, that option value and the volatility implied by, in theory, covers that entire window.
Yep.
Um, and so what happens is, again, you end up there is a bias towards it being anchored more towards what's happening today. If I was looking at it and looking at like what's the daily rent, so taking that number from what is a annualized number to be a day, and just for the math, your denominator in that formula we talked about would be the square root of 252 because there's 252 trading days, at least with the models I use. Some people
Yeah,
would do
right.
360 because I use 360 trading. But that would convert that annualized number into a daily number. And that, in theory, would tell me what December 6th would move today. The problem is that, again, December 6th right now is really, really what I should do is go look at what's the daily vol of these five and just multiply that, the daily rent of December 25, and multiply that times 80 or 70%. And
Because
that,
that's what's driving it.
because that's what's driving most of it,
Yeah.
right? Because that vol, it's including all this other stuff. And so that's like
Mm.
something you have to think about when you're shifting those time frames is really what am I so like, I mean, classic example is like, all right, if I look at the volatility of December futures in like a typical year in June, like, okay, we've got July coming up and August, which are historically potential huge amounts of volatility.
Yeah.
And so you're going to have an overall a much higher implied volatility number than you saw any other point earlier in the year, barring odd externalities. And so it's because you've gotten rid of a bunch of the quieter time. And now you're split about 50-50 between loud days and quiet days. And that's why you see the implied vols jump up. Um, but even that's not enough because again, if you're trying to figure out daily, you got to remember half the time that's left is probably really quiet, right? So if it's telling you the implied vol is 30%, what it's really telling you is if you think in your head, okay, well, I think vol in like back half of Sep, Octave is going to be like 15%. What that's really telling me is like for the next 2 months, we're going to move it 40 or 50, right?
Yeah.
Or at least that's what the market's pricing in from a risk perspective. So these are just many other reasons why you should not just look at that number, convert it to a daily number, and then trade that every day. As you got to, and so we
Yeah.
would build models that would contemplate like what did we think you'd figure out a forward rate vol, and so try to figure out what you thought the back half of that was going to be, and then back that out of the
Hmm.
near term stuff. And
So you're
yeah,
just tweaking the model. You're just throwing your bias in the
we're I wouldn't say we're throwing our bias. Like we're looking at historical data, historical relationships. I mean, really, I mean, this is going really deep, but
yeah.
you'd want to figure out what historically you'd look at two different things. One, on a nominal basis, what's the volatility on a normal crop year from whatever, pick your date, September 15th to November 15th. How does that relate to if in our imagined scenario, June 15th to September 15th? So, is it higher or lower? And then you want to go, like, does it look like it's getting to the same level every time? Like, is it always hitting 15%? Or is it a more relative relationship? Like, if it was crazy running into that period, is it higher even
Uh,
later period or not?
yeah.
And so your bias would come in if you felt like the risk in front of you, was more driven by one angle or another, and that relationship changed depending on what was happening over the next 2 months.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, so thought a lot about
Yeah.
over the
So,
years.
but new since you were doing this, or like you definitely had some time before where you didn't have this, they added the short dated options,
The
right?
short
So,
dated options, yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, so that tells you more specific, right? So yeah, you're right. So how I guess I forget. Are there options that expire every month now?
Every month. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
yeah,
and but I think it's always December
yeah,
that,
that makes
but they
sense.
expire every month. Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
Yeah, so if we were to go plot those, right, you would see. I would assume if we looked at them on January 1st, right, you would see something that looked like Jan, Feb, March, pretty quiet, assuming the March ones expired before intentions, right?
Right, exactly.
Um, but if it captured it, you would see a weird spike there, right? Like,
Yeah.
and then you'd see it come off a little bit. ahead of planting starting, and then you would see implied vols creep up through, like I said, June, July, August, and start to taper off again. They generally peak in July. Yeah. Um, no, you're right. We started to see those come on when I was still trading. We saw the weeklies come on first. Like that was fascinating.
Yeah, right.
Um, and those were always those almost always felt overpriced to us.
Hmm.
Um, there's something similar to like raising the strike, like shortening the term. Like people were willing to give up more.
For sure. It just feels like a discount, right?
It feels like, yeah, because you are getting a discount already, and so they like rarely did we felt like they at the time anyway represented actual implied balls. They're generally at a premium versus what we expected.
Yeah, man. I remember when those weeklies came out thinking like, that just doesn't make any sense to me, right? Because guys would be like, well, you could only spend 4 cents on a call option, right? And it expires next week. And it's like, yeah, but you could spend 15 cents and own it for almost the rest of your life. Like I don't know. I never really got whatever. It was good. We
Yeah.
always use on report days and stuff like that, right?
Well, yeah, I mean I mean that's when they have the most value, but that's when the values crank, right? Like, and that's yeah. But so there's more demand for a weekly option the day before a report because you're not trying to you don't want to pay for the extra insurance, right? You
Exactly.
don't actually like in that case. Really, what you're saying is, I think the move happens here if it happens, and it's not worth hanging on to it. Which I'll tell you what, like in a lot of ways, given how hard it is to pull the trigger on a winner, like to get out of it, like that, I bet more people have actually either saved themselves money or made a lot more because they did that than they would have if they did a fully dated one. Just
Because they
because
invested less in the beginning and it expired either in the month.
yeah, either it was worth something or it wasn't. I mean, and they're right, right? If the report was going to generate a move, it'll generate the move. Like and then it's what's next. And so
Yeah.
not that markets don't drift, but one way or another. But it's unlikely most folks have the discipline and the ability to figure out. And I put myself in this market. When is the right time to exit that position
Yeah,
if it's a winner?
exactly.
Um,
Yeah,
so
and you're saying the short dated kind of forces you to
it
exit.
forces you. Yeah, it's basically a plan, right? Like
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
by
Right.
default you have a plan now.
Yeah, that's right.
Um,
Yeah, so related, I've been looking at like accumulator contracts
mhm.
for 26, right? And the problem with accumulator contracts for 26 is they tend to expire in the end of November,
Mhm.
right? And it's like that's like the worst time to have an offer. Because what I'm trying to say is I want my offer to get picked up, right? If I'm gonna like when I put on accumulator, I tell everybody I'm sure they're annoyed with me. I always say, hey, you're only doing this if you're super excited that this doubles on you, right? Like I need you excited that it doubles. So, I'm sitting here looking at these accumulators for next year, and it's like, yeah, but like, what's the odds that we're going to be $5 on November 23rd or whatever, or 26th? So I'm saying, hey, can we move these back, right? So can we
Forward.
expire them in like July? And, you know, it was hard to get an answer on that, Gabe. I'm super annoyed by it. Like, how hard it was for people to wrap their head around that. Things have changed in the grain world. Like when we were doing premium offers back in the day, I felt like they always expired in like July, August, or
You could
September.
have any day you wanted as long as it was a Wednesday.
Yeah. And nobody ever took them all the way out to November, right? That just wasn't a thing.
No, well, so at the time it would have been illegal for us to do that.
Really.
But there was no reason to. If that's what you want to do, you should have just gone and sold a call, right? Like you
Yeah,
on the
right.
exchange. Yeah.
Yeah, got it.
But
So
that's why premium offer came about specifically because it was addressing that need. People wanted to know if the offers were picked up sooner or they, that's really what it was. It was customizing that opportunity to better fit their marketing plans, right? And
yeah,
and whatever biases they had. It also predated all the monthly and weekly
yeah,
stuff.
exactly, right.
So
But so anyway, what I found is when we got these quotes that are like back to July, I was afraid that hey, you're knocking off like 5 months worth of
Yeah.
time value, right? It's really going to hit it. And it was like, actually, you're only getting about a 4 cent discount by expiring it that early. Uh, and that's directly related to what you're talking about, right? Is
That's right.
the volatility is built in on that July. Yeah. And for
Yeah.
a farmer, oh man, this is you're not going to like this statement. But for a farmer, you want to sell that high volatility, right? Like
Yeah. Why wouldn't I like, I mean,
I
so,
don't know. I feel like every time we shouldn't be talking about farmers
well, farmers
selling.
not going to sell volatility. I think you've put it differently in the past. I would say take advantage, get paid for being willing to take on some risk during that high volatility period.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And yeah, you're right. I would assume what they're looking at is like you talked about that, you're losing a lot of quieter time. So even though you're giving up the time, like it's not nearly as valuable as that July.
exactly.
I mean, I guess I don't know how hard it is for them to turn over quotes, but I mean, I would ask them like, what does it look like? I don't know
Like
whatever. If you
you're saying daily.
Well,
Like
I
what's
don't
it
know about daily, but like, I would
look
like, tell me what it is next week. Tell me what it was the week after. Like, it might be that you can either bring it even closer by a week or two, or push it out a week and get another penny or two out of it. It's tough to know what you're doing. But I don't, I don't know operationally how that person giving you that price, like what they're dealing with. So
very painful. Yeah. Hey, you should be proud of what you guys did on the CRM desk because I have not seen anything like Extra Sense since I left Cargill. I,
still,
oh no, not even close, man. Not even close.
what are
So what quoting systems are today is I have to give it the inputs
mm-hmm,
and then it like solves for price,
mm-hmm,
right? Where the nice thing about what you guys always did were you were like, hey, here are your options, right? And it was really easy to like look at all these options and be like, oh, I get it. If I shorten this, I'm going to take less. Like you had enough information to make that
mm-hmm,
like choice. Where now these current trading platforms are like you would have to punch those in one at a time.
every one at a time?
Yeah, yeah,
That's funny. Well. So what's funny is I was wanting to get to the point where somebody could do that, but and where we weren't publishing because I mean some of those lists were like,
yeah. Get ridiculous
were
for
really,
sure.
but like the interface we always thought about, I always thought about. I actually have I have a notebook that has it written out in it. Was we would have some, but then you basically be able to pick on a quote and just tweak it like in line, right? And say, okay, what is it now? What is it now? And then we would also pull in and show you here's what other people are looking at, or here's what's trading.
Yeah,
Because that was the other question we always got asked: what are other people doing?
yeah.
Um, and so being able to see that stuff, yeah, I mean it's a bummer. I think it's probably an issue with the people building the systems being too far away from the folks using them
Yeah.
because everybody says, "Oh, I want to be able to customize everything." Like, and so it sounds like that's what they built.
Yep,
Um,
for
but
sure.
yeah, it's bridging that gap between like not it's when I hear you say that, it's like it was a helpful way where you didn't have to learn all this stuff about options to understand. You could practically see, okay, if I do this is the impact of those things, so I can
Yeah.
figure out. I can just see as opposed to having to know like where's the
Yeah,
yeah
like have to find it, right? And I think, all the talk about options, the rent and all that stuff, it like the way we used to view that stuff in Extra Sense, I think taught me that like through osmosis, right? It was super easy to see, oh, this is worth more, I could understand why.
yeah. Well,
But
I
yeah, I can
mean,
get overwhelmed too.
but I mean, most of the stuff, right? When you have somebody that understands the specifics on the technical side and then walks you through it, like it's all intuitive, right? It's not
Yeah.
um, the things that get really like accumulators get goofy because they just behave differently, right? You've got an option. So accumulators are generally made up of multiple different pieces. Like when you go trade an accumulator, you're not trading an accumulator. What you're actually trading is like a package of anywhere from 4 to 6 other derivatives that are packaged up in a nice way that is but one of those pieces is probably what's called an in the money knockout. So it's a put option, right? Like we all think about, and then it has a barrier on it where if it trades, it goes away, right? So
Yeah.
that's one component that locks in the floor price. And so um, those option models get real squirrely as the market gets closer and closer to the barrier. because you have an in the money put option, which a regular in the money put option, as the market goes lower, becomes more and more like you're just short futures, right?
Yeah.
But at some point, it goes, it's like I'm short futures, but I could disappear tomorrow. Like, so
Yeah.
so on the edges, those things get real challenging to figure out what's going on. But to your point, like yeah, I mean we wouldn't have ever shown anything like that as like a thing to trade with a barrier close to the market. Yeah, yeah. I mean, and we did. I guess that was the other thing is we often put a lot. Not I'm not going to pretend that every day we put a lot of thought into it, but when we noticed trends or we saw opportunities, we did put effort into like curating that list a little bit, right? Or calling out specific structures that we thought were more advantageous than they'd looked previously. And
Yep.
there's probably not as much of that anymore. I would guess.
No, it just doesn't seem like there's that service out there anymore.
I mean, it was helpful to be really closely aligned to grain origination businesses, right? Well, obviously Ag Horizons being the big one, but like, we worked really closely with corn milling, oil seeds, like, and well, and towards the end, the cattle guys, and
Yeah.
yeah, and we had the advantage of like, we talking to the guys in South America who'd be asking about something in beans like we hadn't even thought about, and like, oh man, like we can share that back up here, and obviously vice versa. Um, but just because the timings they looked at were often different, so it led to different things um, to consider. Well, we're going to start yelling at the moon before too long.
Yelling at the moon.
Well, just the old man yelling at the moon.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Get off my lawn. Sorry, that's
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
yeah. Slow down. Yeah, yeah. I think I actually think about that a lot with the AI stuff. Um, I mean, we are so focused on sucking cost out of everything, right? And it's like, but we just have it's such a immature view on cost, I think.
Hmm.
In terms of like looking at it holistically, like not just the cost of doing the thing, but the cost to, I mean, this is the climate. I mean, part of this climate change stuff, right? The cost to community, cost, more globally. So it's like rarely just focusing just on the dollars out of the pocket today cost actually tell you what a change costs
Yeah.
or eliminating a job or the efficiency gain, like what is that coming out of? Because you see the headlines and stuff like kids out of college having a harder time finding jobs, and not just kids out of college, but I mean everybody. It seems
Yeah.
like
Well, I mean,
that. And we posted a role for 16 hours. It's like an entry level role. I think we got 430 applications,
yeah.
and like thankfully the person on the HR team like went and through it like and weeded out, but like cut it down to 7 because a lot of them looked almost exactly the same because everybody's using the same AI tools to do the applications, right? It's like, um, but yeah, and so like it's interesting because it makes it harder to just hire people. Like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know when as our kids enter the workforce, right, in the next 4 to 8 years, like what is that going to look like?
Well, I'll tell you this. I've been lucky enough to, I don't remember ever having to like put an application in at a job where I didn't know anybody or anything like that. I think the network piece is so big. That is such a huge component here, right? Because if you're one of 500 for this entry level job, good luck, right?
Yeah,
You're probably not, the odds of you even getting a phone call are almost zero.
yeah.
Uh,
I can tell you, it's about 1 in 5.
yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah.
It's better than it's about 1 in 100. About 1 in 100.
Yeah. But it's that so to me, I think it's like that network, right? You got to leverage that network and get in there. But yeah, I hope to never be on the hunt for another job. Does not look fun. So my nieces and nephews are now of age where they're, in the job hunt. And yeah, they've been overall pretty successful, but man, that is ugly. I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
Yeah, yeah. it's funny. My brother did what was it called? Um, uh, City, I can't even remember the name of it. So it was a program that was tied to. It's like one of the federally subsidized programs. He taught in a school in Boston for a year. City Year, that's what it's called.
Okay.
And so it's like a work program for kids out of college. And their whole thing was they didn't want you to become a teacher, right? So they taught you to become a teacher, right, for that year, and sometimes 2 years or even three, I think, if kids really liked it. But their big thing was what they wanted you to do is like you're getting firsthand exposure to like what works and what doesn't in a school and like living that life so that as you leave and go into whatever career you go to, when you're in the community that you're in, join the school board.
Ah,
So now you know what it's like to be a teacher. Now you know what it's like, what are the challenges with whatever, right, in these different schools. And so become an influencer in that way. And I think about like all the traders that we had through the desk over the years, like the things that we taught them, like, yeah, did we teach them about volatility and stuff? But I like to think like we taught them about like how to make really complicated decisions with limited sets of information, right? What does it mean to be responsible? Like showing up on time, like all those things you learn from like those early jobs. Same for your 401k. Like that's the first thing. When I get an early employee, early in your career, like we sit down and have a long talk about 401ks, like
yeah,
or
right.
whatever, like all that random stuff you like. That's it, like it'll. I don't know how we close that gap if you get rid of the like. There needs to be some level of training, and I want it'll be fascinating, hopefully, to the positive to see how we solve that problem. Like
Mhm.
because that's what's getting pulled out, right? Because you don't need a bunch of analysts now because you can just that type of work you can just type into an LLM and get a response on. But you're going to end up with a skills gap because
Right.
you can be a bunch of crusty old 80-year-old folks like using LLMs and like nobody coming in behind.
Yeah, it's like the depth problem, right? Like you don't have a depth of knowledge. You just got surface level knowledge of these things, right? And
Yeah, well, so what they found is if you solve a problem using AI, you don't retain any of it, right? It's like I have the same problem with GPS, right? Like I get in, I plug in wherever I'm going, and I'm driving, I'm following all the directions. Like I'm not going to remember after I got there what I did to get there, right?
yeah,
Like
for sure.
if I do it 5 times maybe, but I offloaded that thinking,
Yeah.
and that and so that's another cost that like I don't know anyway. Uh, super random jump there. Well, let's pull up markets and just take a quick look.
Yeah.
So December corn futures price on our favorite source bar chart, my favorite source bar chart. Love me some bar chart action. Um, all right, I'm gonna move this to month. Well, here we'll start sharing it now. All right, you can see it.
Yep.
It's amazing. So this is the daily chart. Man, look at that, man. You had days to sell at 4:30.
Yeah, no, it was I mean, we took advantage of those. The annoying thing there though, Gabe, you'll appreciate this. So there's a gap in that December corn chart that would be filled at 432 and three quarters.
Okay.
So I had a ton of orders in there at 432, just trying to hit the top of that gap. And the high was 431 and a half, which was,
This says it's only 4:31 and a quarter. You didn't
yeah,
even,
maybe it was a quarter. Yeah,
well, yeah, but
yeah,
yeah. Uh, okay.
that's all right. You
And
got to pick a number. I think we'll get back there.
let's see. I am dyslexic in my typing today. Let's see. Is that the cattle futures code? Didn't like that.
No,
I started to see more articles about how expensive cattle is. Um,
really.
yeah, or how expensive beef is.
Hmm.
So I I feel like, oh man, well, we're definitely on the high end. I feel like that's a classic sign of things getting toppy.
Yeah, for sure.
Um,
You missed the E, LEZ25.
oh. Did you know I developed not for bar chart but for Reuters the code system for the electronic markets
No.
for yeah.
Huh.
Look at
Ah,
this. Jeez.
yeah. How'd you get that job?
Well, I did it when I was at Cargill. Um, all right, so just to be clear, Gabe's wrong about cattle still. I got another week. Um, so it was when I was at Cargill, and so at the time, right? So it used to be just the pit, right? You had the pit, and then you had the electronics that were just overnight. So they didn't have the electronics.
Yep.
And then over
Project
my
A,
career,
right?
Ace,
Project A.
yeah, Ace, yeah, Project A. It was like it was Project A, and then it was A/C/E was like that. I remember, I think was what the
Okay.
system. Yeah. So you had the pit and you had the electronics, and so that was that. Um, and so they had codes for the pit and for the electronics. You could look at them separately or a blended one. So that all existed. And then you ended up with this thing where you had, but it was just futures. And then they had then all of a sudden, really quickly, I think there was the side by side electronic session,
Yep.
right? And there was the fact that you had two sessions really, because you had an overnight session and a day session.
Yep.
And so we ran into issues because we were trying to see what did the market do today. And if you looked at the electronic session, it showed you the entirety of it. Like it didn't treat that close as like it didn't have a way to distinguish.
Yep.
And then obviously there's options too. So options started to trade more on electronic markets and all right. So basically it happened because I kept like badgering them about like I need to be able to see this stuff. And so then I ended up like writing out like here's how I would do it. And to be fair, I took what I thought was their existing. All I did was extrapolate from their existing logic that I had seen other places and
Yeah.
applied it. But like, I mean, there was some complexity to it because you had the multiple sessions for the same type of market, and there's some other things too. But yeah, so I ended up writing
So
that.
did you put the Z in front of
No, so no, that was an existing thing.
that was the
Uh,
electronic, right?
but like, um, so and I don't know where this came from, but like the pit set to look at just the pit session for corn, you would type 3C. I don't know why. That's what you do. So then I was like, okay, well, then we have ZC was the electronic session. And so then it was like, oh, well, why don't we do ZC1 and ZC2? Um, and then there were things like needing to be able to see the close only. I forget what we did with that, but like, I don't know if they ever put that in, but we talked for a long time about being able to just see the closing range. That was another thing. Um, yeah, there's some other stuff. And yeah, anyway, um, that was that was fun.
Yeah, super cool. I know I'd love to find the guy that made the codes for short dated options because they're like a string of 1,000 numbers. I haven't like
Oh,
decoded them yet, but it's
no. So I don't think I didn't do that. I may have given him the codes for the monthlies.
sure. Yeah.
Uh,
Which those make sense. Those are pretty easy. Like I
yeah,
said, that's
the
how I'm
weeklies are a
learning.
mess because I think it's like some weird algo that's like actually the expiration dates
Hmm.
is what I think it is. But I'm reaching way back now. I do not. I used to have all that stuff memorized. Like I could type. You told me what you wanted. I knew exactly
Really?
how to pull it. Well,
Yeah.
because I built the front end for all of our quoting on the desk, and so when as they added in those other options and stuff, so when you would call me for an option, I would type it in, and then if it wasn't just a standard one, if you pick the date, it would pull in the options around it, so I could see what was everything doing,
Yeah.
and make a smarter market. Then
Hmm.
that's yeah. My peak, I could do like 220 calls, 240 calls in a day on the
That's
desk.
unbelievable. Yeah.
Well, I was terrible at like small talk.
Yeah, you were not a small
I
talker.
was
You
not a
were
small
never
talk.
known for that.
I didn't want to hear about your weather. But like, you want to talk about the stuff, like, but like it was. You knew. I think people knew of me. Like, tell them what you want, like, and I will get it to you faster than almost anybody else. But yeah, that's what I had built it for, was for speed, right? Like, so that anything I could think of that I might want to look at when you were asking for a quote got pulled up right away. But I
Yep.
had to write all the logic that would dynamic, because we couldn't pull everything in at once because it was too much data.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Huh.
well,
That's,
Rodney,
yeah, man. We'll have a guest next time. We'll
we
find a
will
guest.
we?
We need to work on that. Yeah, I got a few in mind I want to reach out to.
Some, yeah.
Yeah.
I this felt like a good pause on the,
Yeah.
but we've had a lot of good guests. Like, it's like, man,
Rockstar guest. And I just saw as I was trying to break into this meeting that I think we got our first email to the, yeah. It was from Heather Giesky thanking us for the time
oh,
on the podcast. She love it. But we
oh,
did, we broke that email barrier.
I should say, clearly AI is scraping the content and feeding it into automated marketing platforms, because I'm getting LinkedIn requests from people that I don't know that are like, "Oh, I listened to your last podcast and you were talking about,
Really?
I really like what you said about market dislocation." And I'm like, "You don't listen to the podcast." Like,
Oh,
like
that's funny, man. So I'm getting a bunch of YouTube requests, like they want me to be a YouTube star for something. I don't
they
know. I
probably,
get them all the time.
well, look, hey, if they'll pay you, great. They probably want you to pay them though to be a YouTube
Yeah,
star.
exactly. It's bots for
Hey,
sure.
Ronnie, nobody's asked me to be a YouTube star. I can tell you that.
I don't, and maybe I don't know. Maybe I'm getting that wrong, but it's they. Yeah, I get that text every 3 days, probably. Oh
All right,
well.
man.
All right, man. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Have a good
I
one.
hope if you kick off harvest the next week, no fires, nice and
Oh, fine.
safe.
Yeah, yeah. We'll be safe.
All right.
Cool. Talk to
I'll
you
see
later.
you in a couple weeks.
Yep.